This is our home in London for now.
Hello.
We came here rather unexpectedly. Ronit told me one day that she had been accepted onto a PhD course in London, and in no time we found ourselves here.
My sister. Your sister. Hello.
As a filmmaker who has primarily dealt with observing my own society in Israel, I felt that moving to England swept away the ground beneath my feet. I decided to turn my camera on to my Israel here, to my home, my children, and our friends. Perhaps the distance can focus my gaze. Abigail is nearing school age, and Jonathan was already born here. Ronit is doing her PhD in Tibetan Buddhism at SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies. From now on, she will spend some years with a diverse bunch of students from different countries. Some from countries which have no diplomatic relations with Israel. She will meet a few Israeli students as well.
ככל שאנחנו מדברים עם יותר פלסטינים, עם יותר אנשים, עם לבנונים, עם אנשים ממדינות ערב שלא מקיימות קשר עם ישראל, לפחות לא רשמי, אנחנו פשוט מבינים שבשביל הפלסטינים וגם בשביל אחרים, כל ישראלי הוא סוכן מוסד או בפועל או בפוטנציה. וזה היה, בסוס זה היה חוויה מאוד מעניינת פתאום להבין את העניין הזה. כי אני כל כך רגילה להגיע לכל מקום ולהגיד בגאווה, אני ישראלית. פתאום פעם ראשונה הסתכלתי לדברים מהצד השני. החוויה הזאת שבן אדם אחר מפחד ממני, הרגשתי, אני נראית לעצמי כמו טלה בלונדיני שאין מה לפחד ממנו.
في الدين التركستاني. اوكي. دكتور ما ردك على السؤال.
يلا مع السلامة. باي.
يا أخي الكريم، فيما يتعلق بالولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، أنا أعلم علمي الخاص أن هناك جهودا من سفارة المملكة العربية السعودية.
Khaled is the service and shop manager of the student union at SOAS. He is very active here. Before coming to London, Khaled worked, amongst other places, in a restaurant in Tel Aviv. Amongst his other occupations, Khaled is also the organizer of a Palestinian film festival, and as such, he is very interested in any film reflecting the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's how he saw my film, Don't Touch My Holocaust. In our first few meetings, he kept his distance. He told me, every Israeli may be a Secret Service agent, either real or a potential one. I was no less surprised than afraid by this comment. But bit by bit, a friendship was formed, allowing me, not so easily, even to shoot him with my camera for my film.
What happens sometimes, I want to buy avocado. I need to make sure that it's not from Israel, I grown up in Gaza all my life, in Palestine, and I was a refugee even in my homeland, So, as a friend of mine once he said to me, once you are a refugee, that's it, always you are a refugee. So,
Although London is a huge city, Khaled's house is very near to mine, only a 5 minutes walk away. Whenever I film a person, I always feel like a burglar, as if I steal this person's life for my film. To film is also a way of colonialism. I didn't dare to ask Khaled to come into his house.
יש לי חבר פה שקוראים לו חאלד, ואתה יודע, שנינו באותו גיל, שיש לנו פחות או יותר אותם תחומי עניין, והתקשורת הזאת היא משהו שמבחינה פוליטית, אני חושב, הוא קצת לא רוצה להשתמש, כאילו, אפשר לחשוב מה זה, בסך הכל יושבים בפאב ושותים בירה, אבל כן יש בו משהו מחתרתי בהקשר הפוליטי, הרחב. כי הוא כאילו הולך נגד הקיבוציות הזאת, של אנחנו נגד הם, שבסופו של דבר לכל הפוליטיקאים משני הצדדים יש אינטרס להשאיר אותו בחיים. עכשיו, כשאתה פוגש מישהו כזה ואתה מגלה שיש לך יותר משותף איתו מאשר עם ראש הממשלה שלך, אז זה מחתרתי.
I love the diversity of children from around the world. As an Israeli, a member of a society whose ideal is to be unique and live only amongst Jews, this experience is fascinating and special. Mongolian, Jamaican, English, Iranian, Israeli, Indian, Bengali, American, Chinese, Palestinian, and more.
How do you say?
Can I just say?
Yeah.
You just said ow. It's how.
How?
Yeah. Not ow.
Ah.
So that's no wait. Take
No,
a
but I
spell.
hear the voices of the paper instead.
Voice
Okay.
of the paper.
What? It's not good to say the voices of the paper?
No,
How do
because
you
the paper
say?
can't talk.
So how you say?
The noise.
Noise. Noise of the paper.
My mother tongue is Spanish.
Blackboard.
I received my primary education in French.
Blackboard. Okay, try another one. House.
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 When I came to
House.
Israel at the age of 11,
Okay.
I made Hebrew my language.
Say bath.
Bass.
No, bath.
Bar.
My father and mother, on the other hand, had great difficulties with
Say
Hebrew.
girl.
As a
Go.
boy, I was always
Go.
ashamed of their foreign
Go.
accent.
Say the. Say the.
The.
That's my one.
Since coming to England,
fruit.
even though my English progresses, I'm amazed by how much this language is breaking my teeth.
It's not okay?
Say say rejoice.
Lately, I find myself identifying with my father on the one side and with my daughter on the other.
Oh my god. Listen. These are all the words you cannot say.
Yeah.
Juice, how, book, blackboard, house, happy, sad, bath, Romans, girl, the, fruit, rejoice, soy sauce.
אתה מרגיש בריטי?
ממש לא. אני לא יודע מה זה בריטי. לפני שבועיים נכנסתי למסעדה קוקנית עם הלהקה, אמרתי מה אוכל קוקני עכשיו? אמרו לי אתה צריך לאכול תפוח אדמה עם פאי ג'לי דילס, איזה צלופחים בג'לי, זה הדבר הכי נורא שאכלתי. איך אני יכול להיות בריטי עם האוכל הזה? אבל מה שהיה לי ברור מבחינת הזהות שלי זה שאני בקונפליקט עם הזהות הישראלית. כלומר, יש לי, מה שנותר לי מישראל זה רק רגשות אשם באיזושהי נחרצות טוטלית לתקן את העוול. במלחמת שלום הגליל הגעתי לאנסר באיזשהו שלב וראיתי את מידת הרוע והתחלתי להבין את בעיית הפליטות. התחלתי להתעניין בהיסטוריה של בני עמי. הבנתי ש700,000 פליטים גורשו. זה 50 שנה של איגנורנס. 50 שנה? זה יותר מ-50 שנה, זה 53 שנה של התעלמות בוטה.
Gilad also came here to study. He completed a master's degree in philosophy and meanwhile made his name in the London jazz scene.
אני חושב שהתהליך שלי עם החברה הישראלית הוא תהליך מתמשך של רג'קשן. כלומר, אני מוטט עצמי, deny כל קשר עם החברה הזאת.
אבל אתה מרגיש, אתה יודע שאתה הולך להיות פליט. מה עושה?
אני פליט כבר. למה להיות? מה... סורי.
אתה פליט.
אני פליט, בטח שאני פליט. פליט מרצון.
מרצון?
בטח. יש אנשים שבוחרים להיות פליטים.
למה?
למה אני פליט מרצון? כי אני לא אזרח... האזרחות שלי אזרחות ישראלית ואני חי במערב תודות לחסדים של אנשי המערב. הם רוצים אותי. הם רוצים אותנו את הפליטים או כי אנחנו כוח עבודה זול או כי אנחנו מנגנים יפה. אני מבדר אותם. זה דורש ממני להיות ממש בדרן טוב אגב. למה צריך להצחיק אותם מהמון או לעשות להם לבכות. כמו שאתה צריך, אם אתה רוצה לחיות פה, אתה צריך לעשות להם סרטים טובים. זה לא סתם עוד סרט בורקס. אתה really צריך to make them cry.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, it's once again our very great pleasure here at the club to welcome to our stage one of the world's great young saxophonists and clarinetists. Let's hear it please for the remarkable talents of Mr. Gilad Atzmon.
תגיד, אתה מכיר את התופעה הזאת שישראלים לא אוהבים לפגוש ישראלים? בלונדון? איך אתה מסביר אותה?
לא רק בלונדון, בכל מקום.
נו, אתה לי אתה תסביר.
אני לא יודע, אני חושב על זה הרבה, אני חושב אני חושב שיש אלמנט של הכחשה. שישראלים חושבים שהם פינים או שוודים. ופתאום הם, אתה יודע, הם נוכחים בזה שהם לבנונים. וקצת קשה להתכחש לזה, זאת אומרת, יותר קל להתכחש לזה שאתה לא מסתכל על עצמך. אבל כשאתה רואה מישהו אחר שהוא גם ישראלי, פתאום זה לא נעים.
מה איתכם? אתם גם?
אני לא. לי אין שום בעיה.
ואת?
מה אנחנו מה אנחנו בלגים? ישראלים? ערבים? יש לנו איזה חברים שבאו ללונדון. זוג חברים מאוד כזה, מה שנקרא מהשמאלנים החדשים, שמימנים כמובן. אז הם באו היו באיזה מלון במרבל ארץ', שזה מין אזור שהוא ערבי, שם קהילה ערבית מאוד חזקה. ושאלנו אותנו איך המלון, ואמרו להם, פגשנו אותם בלובי של המלון, אמרו הכל נהדר והכל נפלא, לא יודע, יש איזה, אמרנו להם, למה אתם מסויגים? אז האישה אמרה, אתה יודע, זה מקום נחמד, אבל יש מלא ערבים. ואני חושב שזה גם חלק שישראלים, ישראלים לא אוהבים ערבים, אבל גם הם ערבים, ויש להם איזה קונפליקט עם עצמם, זאת אומרת לנו, יש קונפליקט עם עצמנו בעניין.
If you want to be my lover, you gotta take my friend. If you want to be my lover, that's the way it is.
Celia became Abigail's best friend very quickly. From her very first day in school, they developed a special connection which influences not only the games which they play, but also their creative and artistic activity.
Abigail, did you like to play?
Did I like playtime?
No, did you like to play near the public?
Do you mean did I like to be in the play?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you like that everyone looks at you?
Yeah. The louder they clap, the more I like it, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, the louder they clap, the more I like it.
Why?
Because they just might think about me. They might not be looking at a single person who's a star, at no one, just at me. So they might just be like...
This friendship quickly brought about a friendship between us and Celia's parents, Mary and Tim.
I know what it is!
On Christmas Day, they invited us to their country home.
It's not when you have a space marathon! Let's go at him!
And then, one surprising day, Tim got the Nobel Prize for Medicine.
No, well, the secretary of the committee rings up and says, Dr. Hunt, this is the secretary of the Nobel Prize Committee. This is the secretary of the Nobel Prize Committee. I have some very good news for you. Then I was completely... Oi! 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 And then, so I didn't really believe it. I mean, it was just too stunning to be true. And I wanted to see it in writing. I mean, I never, how was I to know this guy was real? Impossible. So then I immediately rang my boss, Paul Nurse, who had also won it. But he wasn't in his office, so I spoke to his PA, who obviously had heard nothing about it. So I asked her perhaps if he could call back when he got into the office. So this he did, and he said, well, Tim, I think it's probably true. And you better get down here for the press conference.
So when are you going to see them?
We go on, the presentation is on December the 10th, and I have to go on the 6th, and you have to give a lecture, and you have to write an account of your life, and it's pretty serious stuff. And you have to, the funniest thing is you get a little card saying, how much do you weigh, how tall are you, what's the measurement of your inside leg, because they have to provide you with a very special suit to see the king in. Which as you can see, I'm not really used to dressing up like this. Come on, Eggsy, I think it's time we went home. Celia? Celia! What I discovered, I call it the Parmenidean principle. Do you remember the ancient pre-Socratic philosopher Parmenides?
Yes.
he had a very simple philosophy, and it goes something like this. I mean, his work is incomplete and fragmentary. It starts out by saying what is, what is not, okay, which is sort of hard to disagree with.
Yeah.
But then that raises a really acute problem, which is how can anything change? Because something which is not can't be. And how can something which is become not? Yeah? So he argued that the world is a homogeneous, changeless sphere, and our experience of reality, what we call reality, is actually a complete sham and an illusion, because actually nothing changes. So in biology it's very hard to explain, and what interests me particularly is when things change, things come and go. And my protein was part of a complex of two components, of which the other guys discovered, and especially Paul Nurse discovered one component, and I discovered the other component. Together they make things change. And having made things change in one direction, you now have to undo that and go back, like the seasons constantly changing and repeating themselves. So the only way, it turns out, of sort of getting out of this state, when the cells are actually dividing, rounded up and dividing, is to destroy my bit and take it away, which then leaves this one totally powerless to act. And the result is the cells revert to their former state. So my protein just describes this oscillation during the cell cycle, and it's the going away of it which allows something to happen. Actually, even that's not quite true, but I mean, that's the basic principle. I mean, that's all I discovered, that something went away, and that the going away coincided with something changing. And so that sort of explained that was the answer to the Parmenidean paradox.
What interests him is how things change. That's what interests me too. Strangely, something in the way he explains his discovery reminds me of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These days I see everything in terms of this conflict. One complex entity which divides into two different proteins. Something has to happen to enable fundamental change, but what? I wonder, perhaps science can help us to understand something.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
He's trying to get all the
I would like to ask Tim, the scientist, the Nobel Prize winner, about the Israeli-Palestinian complex, but I do not dare.
Let's go down the stairs, shall we?
Surely not now.
More violence in the Middle East, at least 17 dead in the latest...
Television is the open artery, daily dripping drops of blood spilled in Israel, the West Bank and Gaza. Distance only enhances the anxiety. Logic has died and the devil of revenge has overtaken the Middle East. An iron curtain of blindness has cut off any clear and sane view between Israelis and Palestinians. The stage has been left only with the cries of the wounded and the opaque silence of death.
In the coastal city of Netanya,
I decided to call Khaled, and he invited me over for a meal.
So what's the number of your flat?
67. It's a great number, huh? So every time I write my address to somebody, I just laugh. 67.
You like to cook?
Oh, I love cooking. It's one of my hobbies. I cook here to raise money for charity. Hello? اضغط 67.
67.
على بخت ابوك 67 وبعديها كول
Hello.
كيفك؟
هلا.
كيف
شو يا
كيف
زلمة
معدتك انت؟
ساعة وانت رابطنا تحت.
ناوي على عشوة ولا على عشوتين؟
والله إذا في حمص في الموضوع يعني بدها عشوتين نعمل. This is مقلوبة.
They are known that are Israeli cuisine, right? Asher? Falafel, for example.
No, they started like, trying, especially this sort of, trying to make sort of one culture in Israel, yeah? Hummus, falafel. Bring me an Israeli knows how to make hummus. Or how to cook the falafel, in a proper way. But they want just to take the food, they don't want...
No, they've taken the land and the food as well.
Anyway. Wow. There is a history in food.
Is it true?
Yeah.
It's got an artistic touch as well. It's very surprising.
Let's go and eat some Israeli food.
Let's not judge it now. Asher, let's first taste the food and then we can judge.
If I'm waiting for your judgment, I'm just.
All these things.
I'll stop cooking. It's nice, yeah? Beit Lahem, Jerusalem, clashes in that picture.
I just want an Israeli to put themselves in our shoes. I think that's the best way to understand somebody, is to try and put yourself in their shoes. And try to understand us. Let them try and do that. Think of you as a people living in a land, and then overnight, people come from different parts of the world who speak different language, have different religion, have different culture. They come and say, well, this land belongs to us because we owned it 3,000 years ago, and we had a state here 3,000 years ago, and now we want you out. So get out of here, okay? And then you are denied everything. You lose everything you have, and then you are denied everything. You denied your existence, your ID, your right to resist, your right to anything, to education, to a decent life, to peace, to everything. I wonder how Israelis would feel about that. And I know that the Jewish people have suffered a lot, and we know a lot about the Holocaust, and it's a terrible thing happened, and it's you can't imagine. I know you know because you've been through that. Jewish people have been through that, the Holocaust, and but we also know the suffering that they've been through. But it wasn't us. We didn't have anything to do with it. We didn't condone it. We didn't think it was the right thing. No, we have nothing against Jewish people. No, to the opposite. Through history we have lived together in peace, and we can live together in peace. But there has to be some justice.
Zionism has to vanish.
There has to be some acknowledgement of the role that the Jewish people have played in our suffering. And it is all our suffering, all the Palestinian, all the problems that we have, it's because of what the Israelis have done to us. And this is the main point. This is the reason, this is the cause. And without dealing with the cause, then I don't think we can deal with the symptoms of the cause. And all this is what's happening now is are symptoms of the occupation, of the denying Palestinians their natural rights, political and human rights. Sometimes you think how strange it is, because these people have come out of a big Holocaust, of a big disaster, a big suffering. How can they be the aggressor? They've been the victims. They know.
From where is your family?
Kiryat Gat. What you call it now, Kiryat Gat, which is, according to the history, called Al-Fallujah. You know where is it, Kiryat Gat? I've been there once when I was about 12 years old. My dad took me there.
Why?
Why? Because it's the only thing my dad can heritage to me, memories. He hasn't got money to heritage from me. He said, okay, you can heritage our memories. And I went there. He was always, my dad used to tell me about the history of Fallujah, the resistance against the Israelis, or let's say the Jewish that time. He was telling me all these stories, really amazing, you can't believe it. And one day he said, okay, I'll take you to have a look. And we went, and we had a look. And I remember, I didn't cry, my dad didn't cry. And he was shocked. You know, there is the main mosque in that village. This time, if you go and look at it now, it's like, you know, the wastewater of the village. Yeah. Now it's where all the wastewater of that town, of this town, now goes to the mosque, like collection of the wastewater. And my dad was like, God, and he started to sort of crying. That's the only like physical memory I have with the village. But at the same time, you know, before 48, my family they've been very wealthy. And suddenly they became very poor, they became refugees, blah, blah, blah. So this created for them sort of, for my granddad and my grandmom, created for them sort of, you know, frustration inside themselves. And they cannot reject the reality, the new reality for them to live very poor after being wealthy and having lands and being farmers. So they accepted the reality that, okay, we live day after day in this camp, yeah? But when they talk, all the time they just keep talking about Fallujah, about how many lands they had, about how peaceful life they had, all these things. Just a way to run away from the reality. And also, to my granddad, it was something like, you know, never forget your origin. You are from that village. And my dad was always telling me the same. And I promise you, I will tell the same to my kids. Yeah.
What did you feel personally when you in Fallujah?
You know, I have like very strong emotions. Even I've been there once, but I feel like I want to go there. I want to live there. I don't know how. I don't know when. But this is the only hope I have. Like my biggest hope in life, and my biggest aim is to be there one day, living there. I don't care who's going to be my neighbor. Jewish, not Jewish, Christian, non-Christian. Doesn't make any big difference to me. I just want to be in that village. But you never know when the Israelis will change their mentality and understand that there is hundreds of thousands waiting, and we never forgive. We'll never give up, you know, and we'll never forgive the Israelis as long as I can't go back there. I was looking at the news a few weeks ago, and there was this. Was in Haaretz, I was reading Haaretz in English, and they were talking about this 100 young Jewish Russians immigrated to Israel, and how they've been welcomed in the airport, and automatically they got citizenship. You know, these things, when I hear this story, how just being a Jewish and you can go to my homeland, yeah, just because you are Jewish, and you can have a citizenship next week you arrive there, and you considered like first-class citizens. Well, somebody who has no history there, who has no emotions, you know, just go there, and then he can claim my house, to take my house, and I'm bloody waiting for the last 53 years, you know. I feel this, I don't know, is it part of the injustice? Or is it just to do with Israel being a racist state from the start, to not distinguish between human rights and their religious beliefs? So, it's a shame. But I promise you, We'll go back, I promise you. I'll never forget my village there. Even I've been there for just one day, but I can imagine, always I remember the moments I was, sitting in somewhere in the village like area, there is nobody living, because my dad was afraid to go and hang around where is lots of Israelis living, and just we went to like sort of the countryside of the village. How we spent the day in the countryside of the village. You don't want to go to Morocco?
Khaled asks me if I don't want to go to Morocco. His moving story raises some questions and memories. I was born in Tangier, the most northern city in Africa. Nowadays it is part of Morocco. Tangier was an international city, fascinating and exotic, lying at the entrance of the Mediterranean. A meeting point of cultures, a tax-free city, and therefore a center of commerce, tourism, some crimes, and art. Writers, especially American ones during the 50s, adored its exotic air, the sexual freedom, and the weather. Paul Bowles, who was our neighbor, or William Burroughs, made Tangier their home. Burroughs wrote to Allen Ginsberg, "Come and see the most beautiful place in the world." I love the photos of my dad walking proudly with his beautiful wife 20 years to his junior. We were 7 children. I am the second from the left. I was the 5th in the family. Our 6th brother, Carlos Shalom, was later killed in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. As soon as Morocco gained independence in the 50s, it demanded to receive total hold of Tangier. The Jewish community feared the moment the Moroccans would gain control over the city. I remember stories about our rabbi who was stabbed on his way home. My father's name appeared in the newspapers as one of the Jewish merchants that the Moroccan authorities would arrest as soon as they came to power. When it became certain that the Moroccans are taking over Tangier, my father decided that we must leave. I remember being woken in the middle of the night, all of us, the 7 children. We were told, whispering, to go down to the street, to be very quiet so that our neighbors would not hear a thing. We went into 2 cars which were waiting for us downstairs. It was cold. My mother covered us with thin blankets. That was the only thing we took from our house. And then the cars left. We were told to keep our heads low so as not to be seen. I slowly understood that we were escaping, like thieves in the pitch dark. It took a while for me to understand that we would never go back. We left our house behind as it was, all tidy and clean, with all our furniture and books. I love Tangier. I love the beach, its colorful scenes, its special characters. I loved Elizabeth, my first love, with her deep blue eyes. The Sunday circuses. When dawn broke, we were crossing the Gibraltar Straits towards Spain. Since emigrating to Israel in the 60s, we were forbidden to visit Tangier. I went back to Tangier more than 30 years later, when a window of hope had been opened following the Oslo peace agreements between Arafat and Rabin. It had changed enormously. When we left, there were 35,000 people living there. Now, there are more than 1 million. My brother David came with me.
ילד בן 8, 9, 10, ועובר ככה על התמונות שהיו פה, ואומר לעצמי, אני זוכר, הלכתי עם אחד הגדולים, או עם אבא או מישהו, ואומר לעצמי, בעצם אני כבר יודע את הכל בחיים שלי.
In fact, I was invited to present my film in the local Mediterranean Film Festival. But David and me spent most of our time walking among our forgotten memories that suddenly appeared by a flash of lightning with surprising clarity. We remember the streets and the houses, and especially the smells. Based on our memory, we found our neighborhood, our local cinema Al-Qasar, and the house we grew up in.
שם יש פסיו ושם היה החדר של... פה גרה אימא. כשהתחתנה
It is a huge house.
בבית הזה.
It was the house in which our entire family lived. My grandmother, our family, my father's brothers and their families, the house in which I was born. We couldn't go in. In the small shop next to our house, we found a nice man that is living there with his family. He told us about our grandmother Mama Luna, who did not live with us but stayed behind all alone.
Aquí estaba en esta tienda. Sí, en esta tienda. Sí. Aquí, esta tienda siempre estaba aquí, esta tienda. Siempre estaba aquí esta tienda.
Yo conozco todos los judíos que se fueron a Israel, todos vivían aquí.
Sí, aquí vivíamos, aquí vivía.
He told us that she gave him the house as a present. Now he lives there with his daughters.
Amiga de tu hermano.
Sí, él dijo, cuando fue a Israel, se dejó
se dejó la casa a tu hermano.
Mucho tiempo.
Ya hace 30
He told his son to take us to see the house. The son had forbidden us to enter the rooms because the young women were there. He allowed us to stay only around the corridor and the entrance. I was so excited I got all confused. I ended up filming the wrong way round. Every time I wanted to film, I stopped the camera. And every time that I wanted to stop, I put it on. So I ended up documenting not the details, but the shadows of the experience, the tales of the excitement, the emotions. And now I am in London. I find myself divided. I am sitting here with Khaled and Amjad and wearing two hats. On the one hand, I totally identify with their feeling of a refugee living in exile. And on the other hand, I know that in this case I represent the occupier, the one who took their home from them.
We had property, we had land in 1948 in a village used to call Al-Khairiye, near Yafa. Now, of course, it doesn't exist anymore, but that's where we my family, my parents, my grandparents had land there. So I think even signing up any agreements with between the Israelis and the Palestinians, unless this issue is solved properly, then there will be no eternal peace, I'm afraid, and the Middle East as a whole. I mean, where is the morality? Where is the justice in that? That you want these people now to stay there because, well, you can't have them back because you are a Jewish state and you don't want so many Muslims in your state. Though these people come from there and they have their homes and they have the right to live there. I mean, what morality? What justice? Is that Judaism? Is that how Judaism teaches you? I mean, I want to know because I know that Judaism is a good religion.
A few days after the supper with Khaled and Amjad, I went for a short visit to Israel. On my way to Tel Aviv, suddenly Khiria appeared out of the car window. Khiria, the village in which Amjad's family lived, the village which is the focus of their yearning, turned after 1948 into the Khiria dump, the biggest garbage dump in Israel, the place in which all the garbage of the Tel Aviv area was collected. A huge mountain of garbage that turned into such a dangerous ecological threat that its use was lately stopped. In 1994, I directed a short film there, starring the popular comedian Shlomo Baraba. It is a comedy that criticizes with irony the situation of living in a dump.
ב-1948 נוסדה חירייה. חירייה, כולה חירייה. גובה התל 60 מטר מעל פני הים. זה אחד הערים הגדולים בארץ, הגבוהים ביותר.
Suddenly now, I am ashamed to admit that while I was shooting the film, I wasn't even aware of the fact that this place used at one time to be a beautiful Palestinian village.
משאיות ליום קרוב למיליון טון אשפה, כי מעפר באנו ולזבל נשוב.
When I look at scenes from this film today, after hearing Amjad's story on the village of Khiria, the irony of the film gains a new embarrassing twist.
כאן התגשם חזונו של הזקן, כור ההיתוך הושלם. אוי חירייה שלי, אוי חירייה שלי, היית או חלמתי חלום.
I decided to go on and look for Khaled's village as well. Kiryat Gat of today, Fallujah of pre-1948. Kiryat Gat is a typical Israeli development city. Many new housing projects populated by Jewish people who arrived after the State of Israel was established. One cannot see any remains of the village that was here before 1948. I visited in a weekend. I primarily saw Jewish immigrants from ex-Soviet Union and Ethiopia. I toured the town extensively and could not find Khaled's house based on the few points of reference that he mentioned. Unfortunately, I did not find Khaled's house, but to my great amazement, I encountered over and over again a very worrying phenomenon, signs calling for the deportations of Arabs. In Kiryat Gat there are no Arabs left. The signs refer to the deportation of all the Arabs from Israel. The murderous racism of the Rabbi Kana has penetrated the main streets. I cannot remember anything like this on this scale in Israel before. These people, these children, do not know a thing about Fallujah or 1948. They know the Palestinians only from suicide attacks.
Hello.
Ignorance of the past and rejection of it can turn into a dangerous weapon, a weapon which can lead to self-destruction.
איפה את לומדת עכשיו?
אני עכשיו במצב שהעולם שלי חרב. זה המקום שבו אני עומדת. מצד אחד יש לי כזה געגוע לחזור הביתה. אני מתגעגעת. זה הבית שלי, ואין לי בית אחר. ולא יהיה לי אף פעם בית אחר. מצד שני, מרגישה פנימית שאין לי למה לחזור.
למה?
כי אני מרגישה שבארץ אני אחיה יום יום את הסבל של העם האחר, את הסבל של האחרים, את העניין, את העובדה שהקיום שלי הוא על חשבון מישהו אחר. או שלחילופין אני אשקע שוב באותה התעלמות, שזה מפחיד אותי לא פחות. את מצב הבת יעניות שאנחנו מכירים וחיים אותו בארץ. כי אין ברירה, אתה לא יכול כל יום לסבול את הסבל של האחר, מספיק הסבל שלנו. אי אפשר, כמה אפשר לנסות את זה? אז למה זה טרגי? כי זה חסר פתרון. אי אפשר להיות פה ואי אפשר להיות שם. צריך לצאת מזה משהו טוב בסוף. הבודה שהוא חווה את ההערה שלו, יושב מתחת לעץ הבודי, ככה, בתנוחה הזאת שגנדי יושב שם, מתחת לעץ. הוא הגיע למסקנה שהחיים הם סבל. זה היה הגילוי הראשון שלו. עכשיו מזה הוא הגיע לזה שיש דרך לצאת מהסבל. ואז הוא הבהיר את הדרך שממנה אפשר לצאת מהסבל. אבל אתה חייב קודם כל לראות את הסבל.
But perhaps to really see the suffering, one ought to touch the origin of suffering from close range. We decided to go to Poland. Ronit never wanted to go to Poland. Her family lived there for hundreds of years, and most of them were exterminated in the Holocaust. It was hard for me to persuade her to come, but this trip was related to our little boy, Jonathan Elimelech. walking on familiar yet unknown path awakens dormant memory cells. Ronit knew that her father used to live in Vienna and fled to Palestine when his classmates became Nazis. But she forgot that his mother, Ronit's grandmother after whom she is named, had actually come from Krakow. She found the names of her family on the memorial board.
Before the war, it was 3.5 million Jews in Poland. In Krakow, 65,000. It was a quarter of the population of the town. 15 years ago, my friend, who is professor in Hebrew University, called me the entire post-war Jewish generation in Krakow. Now, sometimes people call me the only Jewish intellectual in Krakow. In 15 years from now, if I will be still alive, I will be probably called the last Luftmensch of Krakow. Hello.
A rare and sad opportunity to film an entire community in one frame.
One eminent Jewish writer, Grigory Kanowicz, he wrote, "There is no Krakow without Henryk Halkowski, and Henryk Halkowski without Krakow." So after this dedication, I started to feel like peasant in middle age, terra scripti. I can't move. I'm described to the land. I can't go anywhere.
The hotel in which we stayed in Krakow was, before the Second World War, the mikveh, the traditional bathhouse of the big Jewish community. But its fame nowadays is mostly due to its wonderful restaurant serving Jewish food. Needless to say, none of the staff or cooks are Jewish. Jewish food and Jewish music are very trendy in Krakow nowadays. There is a vibrant Jewish culture, but there are no Jews. They serve kugel, gefilte fish, regel krusha, and other Jewish delicacies. Ronit was delighted, so was I. The forgotten foods began to awaken our taste buds. It is amazing to find to what extent the memory of taste remains, maybe even is inherited in one's genes. After years of Israeli-Palestinian food, suddenly her sense of taste connected her to her origins. Suddenly we heard familiar sounds. The non-Jewish klezmer group was singing to their non-Jewish audience the song about Ronit's forefather, about the Rabbi Elimelech. Our Jonathan Elimelech was so moved to hear his name mentioned by these people that he could not sit still any longer.
Tell me a bit about Lechansk today.
About Lechansk?
Yeah.
A crooked village.
A what?
A crooked village.
Why?
Right?
Why?
I think so. I have such a feeling.
Why do you say crooked?
Small.
Small.
Tell me please.
Was the great grandfather of me.
How many people live here?
About 30.
About?
30.
30?
30,000. 30,000, of course.
Your parents also were from Leisure? And do they tell you any something about the Jewish here? Or did you know Jewish people live here?
For me, that was never a problem.
Yeah.
Never a problem.
About what?
About nationalities.
Yeah.
There was no Jews, no Polish, no Russian, no Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Everything was the same. There was no difference for me.
Yeah.
But did you know some?
Up today. I don't see difference between you and Arab men, not Jewish.
Yeah.
I think you are from Arab. From, wie heißt das? next, from Orient, eh?
What?
No? You are from Orient,
Yes.
or not?
Yes. I am, from North Africa.
From North Africa.
Yeah. She is from here, not me.
All my grandparents used to live in Lezhinsk.
Very is possible, yeah? And his parents are Arabs.
Not Arabs.
Jewish.
Yeah, from confession, but
Then-
from origin Arab.
No.
No.
No?
They're Jewish.
From origin.
No, Jewish.
Today,
Yeah.
in this time, in this hour, Sharon,
Yeah.
who murders Arabs, right?
You say?
Yeah, you are one of them, huh?
No.
No? No? Goodbye.
Person, you know, house of the Rabbi Elimelech? House.
House. This gosh.
When Rabbi Elimelech was in Lezhinsk, his house.
Jest, ale
My wiemy, kto to jest, ale...
I know who is Elimelech. Is Elimelech house? I don't know. This, ale to nie, chodzi o dom. O dom, gdzie on mieszkał. A nie wiem.
Jego dom był zaorany. Kogoś ze starszych.
This new people is that
new
house.
people.
That house, new people.
Are there any Jewish people here?
No,
No.
no. It's gone. Gone. Gone on.
You know where they go?
1942. Go. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
הם היו פה, זה היה פה רוב יהודי. עיירה יהודית ובמהותה. And they are gone. They go on. זה משפט יפה.
In der Heiliger Tatik wird sicher Meilit Teusam fach im Freier Mischpuche. Gedenk Sam Aftuche, als wird Makir Teuvesam, vor dem us wird helfen für seine Einiglach. Vergesst nicht dem Chussen, dem Yusem, Einikel von Heiligen Balai Lille, wo steht vor die Chasine, in dem Arois, soll kennen Chasine Bechuvet.
שהוא רבי חשוב, אבל לא תיארתי לעצמי שזה עד כדי כך, שיש אנשים שבאים לקבר, שיש אנשים שלומדים את תורתו, שנועם אלימלך, הספר שלו זה ספר כל כך נפוץ. כאילו חזרנו אחורה, כמה? 60-70 שנה? עיירה יהודית, כמו שהייתה פעם. הגיעו במטוסים מכל העולם, לפחות 50 ג'מבואים מכל העולם, מישראל, מכל מדינות אירופה. אנשים, אפילו מאמריקה. אנשים באו ל-24 שעות, הם באים, רובם נוחתים בקרקוב, באים לקבר, מתפללים כל הלילה וחוזרים. עושים מאמצים עצומים בשביל לבוא לפה, חלקם חוסכים שנים בשביל לבוא לפה. זה נסיעת החיים שלהם. אני מרגישה זכות שאני צאצאית לאדם כזה. וזאת הסיבה שגם החלטנו להוסיף את השם אלימלך לשם של יונתן. שהוא ירגיש זכות ושהוא ירגיש קשר, כי זה חשוב שאפילו שאנחנו חילונים, שלא נתנתק מהמסורת היהודית שלנו. הנה, אולי ככה אשר, הסבא שלי היה נראה, כל המשפחה שלו בפולין, הוא כן היה עם פאות, ובשבתות לבשו קפוטת ושטריימלים והכל. אז כן, זה המשפחה שלי, זה לא כמו המשפחה שלי. זאת המשפחה שלי. אני צריכה לבוא לפולין בשביל לפגוש את המשפחה שלי כמו שהיא הייתה באמת, כמו שהיא הייתה פעם בפולין. הרבי אלימלך ראה במושג גלות ערך עליון. מספרים עליו למשל שהוא היה מטיל על עצמו גלות. הוא היה מתלבש בבגדים פשוטים ויוצא לערים אחרות, למקומות שהוא היה זר בהם, שלא הכירו אותו. ונשאר שם תקופות. זה נורא מזכיר את האופן שבו הנזירים בודהיסטים מסתובבים במקומות לא מכירים אותם, בתור אמצעי להגיע להבנה רוחנית עמוקה יותר. דרך אגב, זה נורא דומה להם איך שהדלאי למה רואה את הגלות שלו. הוא לא רואה בזה משהו שלילי, אלא זה, מבחינתו זה הזדמנות שמאפשרת לו להתבונן על דברים באופן אחר. באופן מסוים זה גם דומה למצב שלנו בגלות. מתוך הפרספקטיבה של המרחק והניתוק והקושי, זה מכריח אותך להסתכל על הדברים אחרת. ויש לזה כוח, אין מה לעשות. יש לזה ערך. יש לזה גם מחיר מאוד יקר. נראה לי שיונתן נורא מבסוט, נורא שמח פה. כאילו הוא מרגיש פה בבית באופן מוזר. כאילו הוא מרגיש איזשהו קשר למקום הזה, לאיש הזה.
בוא.
סבא שלי, אבא של אמא שלי, הוא עלה לארץ בשנות ה-20 מלז'יינסק. בשנות ה-30 הוא כתב להורים שלו שיבואו לפלסטינה ויראו איזה יופי בפלסטינה והצטרפו אליו. וההורים שלו באו מפולין בשנות ה-30. והם היו מאוד דתיים, הם באו והם ראו חיים חילוניים בפלסטינה. אבא שלו אמר, מה? זה יהודים? ככה חיים יהודים? אני לא נשאר פה, אני חוזר לפולין. והם חזרו ללז'יינסק וכולם הלכו, כולם הגיעו לאושוויץ בסוף. וזהו, וסבא שלי כשהוא שמע מה קרה בשואה, שהגיעו החדשות עליו, הוא הלך, גזר את הפאות שלו, הוביל את הכובע, וזהו, ויותר הוא, לפחות כלפי החוץ הוא לא היה דתי יותר, אבל כלפי פנים הוא נשאר אדם דתי.
Gilad invited us to Christmas in his house. Ariela, his mother, came from Jerusalem to visit her son and grandchildren. Ariela recently resigned from her post as a lecturer of philosophy in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Tali, Gilad's wife, began in Israel a successful career as a theater and film actress. Her career ended when she joined Gilad here in London.
אין לך שום כאב על זה שהבן שלך מנסה גם...
לא רק זה, אני ממש פיתיתי אותו. אני שנים אמרתי לו שיבוא ללונדון, עד שהוא הבין את זה עוד יותר טוב ממני. איך אומרים, הוא עלה עליי ביכולת שלו להבין כמה זה טוב להיות מחוץ לישראל.
Gilad is becoming more and more successful on the London stages. Lately he came out with 2 CD albums, and his first book has been translated to many languages. In the reviews, he is already referred to as a British musician with an Israeli past.
ההורים שלי ממה שהיום קוראים בלרוס. הגיעו ב-36, 38, אבי ב-36, אמי ב-38, ואבי היה בית"רי. כשהוא הגיע ארצה, הוא ראה באיזשהו מקום בקומה שלישית דגל, כנראה זה הייתה איזו שגרירות, הוא ראה דגל גרמני. הוא עוד רק ירד מהאונייה, הוא לא הספיק בכלל לדעת איפה, הוא טיפס לקומה השלישית, הוריד את הדגל, קרא אותו, וירד דרך המרזב, וכל המשטרה הבריטית הייתה בעקבותיו, משום שעוד לא הייתה הכרזת מלחמה. זאת אומרת, הוא היה מאוד לוחמני, הגיע ארצה עם רעיונות ממש כולו טרור. אני גדלתי ששלמה בן יוסף זה היה זו הייתה הדמות החשובה ביותר, הדמות שאותו אדם שעלה מעל כביש ראש פינה וזרק רימון על אוטובוס ערבי והרג נשים וילדים, אבל אני גדלתי על כל השירים של שלמה ביוסף, תשב תבכה האם באבל, על בן יקר, על בן מופלא, על אותו בחור שזרק רימון על אוטובוס מלא נשים וילדים, אבל זה היה למען החופש, למען מדינה עברית, כן?
מה הוא עושה? הוא הולך עם בין הגיטרה והולך לפסנתר. אתה מבינה מה הוא עושה?
כן. אני קשה לי מאוד להתמודד עם הקיון חושים, עם ההונאה העצמית. אני שומעת, אומרים ככה, אנחנו בונים על זה שגם הצד השני רוצה שקט. אבא שלי היה טרוריסט, הוא לא רצה שקט עד שלא הייתה לו מדינה. אנשים פה באים ואומרים, ישראלים שלומדים פה, באים ואומרים, אנחנו בונים על זה שגם הצד השני בסופו של דבר ירצה שקט. הצד השני לא ירצה שקט עד שלא יהיה לו את מה שהוא ירצה. אבא שלי היה מוכן לשבת, אני גדלתי בבית של טרוריסטים, אבא שלי היה מוכן לשבת בבתי סוהר, היינו רעבים ללחם, הכל היה מאוד מאוד קשה, אנשים חיו בתנאים הקשים ביותר, היו מוכנים להקרבות. אני נקראת על שם אדם בשם אריה יצחקי. אריה יצחקי היה בחור שהכין פצצות במרתף ביום שנולדתי והתפוצץ. על ידו היה עוזי אורנן במקרה, וכשהגיעו אליו האנגלים ושאלו אותו מה שמך, אז הוא אמר מוות לבריטים, ואחרי זה הוא מת ואני נולדתי. חצי פרצוף הלך לו. אז אני נקראת על שם בן אדם שלא רצה שקט, לא רצה שקט. רק כשנהייתה מדינה הם רצו שקט, גם הפלסטינאים לא ירצו שקט עד שלא תהיה להם מדינה. לבנות על זה שהם ירצו שקט, איזה חוצפה זאת. אמפתיה זה להבין שהאחר עשוי מחומרים אחרים ורוצה דברים אחרים וחושב אחרת, ואתה צריך להגיד אני שונא אותו, אני כועס עליו, אבל אני מבין. מה אתה חושב שאני רוצה כמה אנשים שעושים פצצות מתאבדים שהם יהיו החברים שלי שהם ישבו פה הרגע על הספה? לא, אבל אני מבינה אותם, אני מאוד לא אוהבת אותם, אבל אני מבינה אותם.
Stories and songs which we grew up on reverse their meaning. The trust in the old historical narrative which we studied in school in Israel on how the state was formed has been broken.
מה קורה פה?
יאן.
אתה ממש עושה לנו כאן עכשיו אוטודפה.
A revision of Israeli history is taking its place. For many, this breaks the ground beneath their feet.
עכשיו לשרוף.
לשרוף. אמרתי אוטודפה, כן.
This flow of young Israelis and students who reject the ideology on which they have been educated and who do not return to Israel after their studies, in many cases with the support of their parents, has lately turned into an immense wave.
זה טוב לדעת שהוא לא יצטרך ללכת לצבא אף פעם. זה מאוד מרגיע. נכון.
The first reportages of the Israeli army operation in Jenin radiate the impression that something became totally wrong with the Jewish state.
Two men from Jenin said their hands had been bound for 3 days.
It's hard for the eyes to see, and the mind refuses to believe what the ears hear. It's frightening to imagine what may have happened. The hatred between Palestinians and Israelis reaches a new climax. Was there a massacre or not?
I can tell you that there was no massacre in Jenin.
It appears the answer does not matter any longer. The jinn, the devil spirit, has broken out of its bottle and is hurting Palestinians and Israelis, as well as Jews in the diaspora. The tension in the Middle East reaches the streets of London.
We have found in you, the Jews of Great Britain.
Boaz didn't come here on his journalistic mission to comment about the gathering to his newspaper, but as a worried Israeli who wants to see and reflect on the immense tension and to witness the rebounding waves that radiate hate and disaster all over the world following every event in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Boaz and Efrat, as opposed to others, decide to return to Israel upon completing their studies so that their son, who is due in 6 months, be born and raised there.
בועז הוא עיתונאי בפועל ואני הייתי עיתונאית עד שנסענו. אנחנו מרגישים שאנחנו רוצים להיות עכשיו בארץ, שאנחנו רוצים להגיד את הדברים שאנחנו חושבים ושרוב האנשים היום בעיתונות לא אומרים. ואנחנו מרגישים שזה כן זמן, למרות כמה שהמצב גרוע, זה כן הזמן להיות שמה. כמה שזה נשמע, לא יודעת, נאיבי, שאולי אנחנו לא באמת נצליח לשנות דברים מזה שנכתוב כמה מילים, אבל זה זמן להיות בארץ, זה לא זמן, כולם אומרים לנו אל תחזרו, האימהות שלנו שדואגות לנו. מה זה אל תחזרו? נחכה שיהיה טוב ואז נחזור? זה לא עובד ככה.
Anael is my older daughter. And she is also preparing her baggage for returning to Israel. But unfortunately, she came to London from Jerusalem for too short a visit of only a week. Anael is a student at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and came to spend part of her semester break with us. The day passed so quickly, and she is already going back. We would like to slow the watch to keep her a bit longer here with us. And that not only because of the usual tormenting feelings about parting, but because all of us know that she is going back to a dangerous battlefield, a chaos where her life depends on the devil's numbers. But unfortunately, the flight's time is approaching, the airport is far, and the security checking for travelers to Israel takes a long time, so she has a snake before leaving.
שיגיע לך אבא.
אני גם אגיע אלייך.
כיף אצלכם. בוא נגיד שגם היה לי כיף להיות פה כי לא הייתי צריכה לפחד כל הזמן.
מה זאת אומרת?
שאני אתפוצץ.
מה זה... איך את מרגישה עם זה באמת? איך זה...
זה מפחיד.
מה?
פוצץ. היה פיצוץ באוניברסיטה שלי אפילו. והחברה שלי נפצעה. כל מקום. כשאני נמצאת בבית, אז זה במרכז העיר. כשלמשל הייתי בחופשת בחינות בסמסטר הקודם, אז היו איזה 3 פיגועים בזמן הזה, אם אני לא טועה. וכל הזמן אתה שומע את הבום ואתה יודע שזה זה, ולוקח כמה דקות עד שבאים האמבולנסים ואחר כך רואים חדשות. זה פשוט רצף של דברים שקורים ביחד, אתה כבר יודע מה יהיה, כאילו, ברגע שאתה שומע את זה. למעשה גם לפני אתה יודע, אבל אתה לא חושב שאולי אתה אומר אולי זה באמת לא יקרה. זה די מבאס. אין לי אותו. אבל אני מנסה להימנע כמה שיותר מלהיות בעיר ולנסוע באוטובוסים. אבל אי אפשר גם להימנע. כאילו... לא דווקא מנסיעות באוטובוס, אלא מהסכנה. אני עושה את הכל, אבל אני מפחדת, ואולי זה מה שזה הכי משפיע. אם אני רואה הרבה אנשים, אז אני אומרת, וואי, צריך ללכת מפה. במקום להגיד איזה כיף, וואו. אפשר לראות הרבה אנשים וזה, בטח אפשר לדעת מה.
זה כל כך נורא מכאן לשמוע מה שקורה שם. בפיגוע האחרון זה שהיית פה, זה היה כל כך הרבה יותר קל.
מה לעשות? זה הבית שלי. אתה באת לפה, אבל אני נשארתי. אתה גידלת אותי שמה. ואני ישראלית, והתרבות שלי ישראלית, אז אני שמה. לא יודע, השיח שלכם פה הוא שונה מאשר מה שיש בארץ.
מה זאת אומרת?
כאילו, לא יודעת, בגלל המרחק אתם מרשים לעצמכם לחשוב דברים שאתם לא חושבת שהייתם רוצים לגור בתוכם. פתרונות כאלה שלא נראה לי שהם כל כך פרקטיים, אבל מרחוק הם נראים נורא הגיוניים.
למשל?
ערבים יגורו עם, כאילו פלסטינאים יגורו עם ישראלים. זה לא דבר, זה לא יכול להיות, כאילו... פשוט... לפי דעתי זה לא יהיה, וגם אם זה יהיה, אז אתה לא תרצה לגור בכזאת מדינה.
למה? למה את חושבת כך?
כי הקטע של ישראל זה שזה של יהודים, מה אני אגיד לך? זה הקטע שלה.
אז כאילו את לא מאמינה בשלום, כאילו בחיים משותפים?
אני כן מאמינה בשלום, הלבבי יש שלום, כמעט היה שלום. אני חושבת שזה צריך להיות בקונספציה של... זה לא יחזור להיות למה שהיה לפני, כאילו, 48. זה לא הגיוני.
למה?
לפי דעתי. כי כבר באותם בתים גרים אנשים אחרים, מה תעשה עם אותם אנשים? באמת. זה יהיה עוד, כאילו אפשר לעשות הפוך, כאילו לנשל את האנשים האלה מהבית שלהם, ואז יהיה כאילו מעגל כזה. פשוט צריך למצוא חלופה אחרת, אוקיי, אז אולי זה... עכשיו גם כן זה לא ריק.
אז מה הפתרון לפי דעתך?
לא יודעת. לפי דעתי אין פתרון עכשיו. לפי דעתי... כרגע יש כל כך הרבה שנאה בין שני העמים וכל כך הרבה חוסר אמון שייקח עוד הרבה, יכול להיות אפילו דורות עד שמשהו יוכל להתחיל להסתדר מחדש.
בכל אופן, אני נורא שמח שאת טובה, אני נורא מודאג שאת נוסעת.
You should be worried. זה באמת מפחיד, מה אני אגיד לך? זה ג'ונגל, אבל מה לעשות? זה הג'ונגל שלנו.
I want to freeze time, to observe Anael's beauty and life, to remember the here and the now. There is an unrelenting anxiety that, God forbid, this might be our last meeting, which makes us value each moment we are together. I want to try to live this moment fully, with all my heart. But now action is needed. Anael already has left, and the anxieties about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict overpower me, not only as a worried Israeli, but as a determined father who has a responsibility for his daughter's future. What to do, how to solve the conflict, it doesn't seem as if the solution will come from the politicians. They don't have, and they don't want to have, any creative idea for a solution, not even to imagine theoretical solutions. In my great frustration, I thought perhaps science could give us some inspiration. I mustered my courage and decided to come up with the question for a solution to put to my good friend Tim. Perhaps scientists could help us find a solution for solving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But Tim looks very busy. I am embarrassed to ask him what discovery he is working on now.
Asher.
Yeah. That's typical of Tim. As a genuine Englishman, he always uses his humor to dissolve the moment's tension and to bring the situation to a human and simple level.
My attaché, so it's the driver. This is the team. So the other medals are chocolates. The one in the middle is the real gold 200 gram.
This is the middle.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Team Hunt.
And then one.
And then one is nice, huh?
Yeah, I rather like that.
So I thought after hearing your discovery that maybe there is a scientific solution. We have two components, Israel-Palestinian. Something must change.
Something has to change. Well, unfortunately, in my terms, the analogy would be that one or the other has to be destroyed utterly, but that would be the scientific equivalent.
Why?
Well, because that's what actually happens. In other words, to take this thing away, it turns out that one of the two components is degraded. The component that I discovered is completely degraded, and there is a mechanism for degrading it, which is, by the way, the mechanism for degrading it is quite external to the thing itself. I mean, you have a little signal on there, and it says "degrade me when the right time comes." I mean, it's like a sort of suicide pill, if you like. And indeed, if you take this little signal off, then the thing doesn't get degraded. And interestingly, for a cell, that's a disaster, because it means it can't complete the act of division. It gets stuck forever, locked in this tense state. So, I mean, but it's stupid to, in my view, to bring out analogies between molecules and societies, because they're very different creatures. Molecules, complicated they are very simple by comparison with human beings. Very simple. But I don't understand them at all. Molecules, I mean. Human beings, completely impossible, right? I mean, so weird, so strange.
Do you know where they are? The system.
So, scientifically as well, our situation is really bad. We are now precisely at the worst moment for the cell. The time when everything is stuck and locked in this tense state, which is the most horrible for the cell. A moment before the suicide pill is going to be called for a self-annihilation. The truth is that I was looking for some kind of hope, even a theoretical one, in this analogy between the microcosmos and the macrocosmos. Tim realized that I was quite depressed. Apparently, in this conflict, one of us must be destroyed. Maybe the analogy is problematic, but it is very worrying. Then Tim decided to propose to me a salvation, the only way for the cell to get out of its state of stagnation.
Cells are growing, they get bigger, and when they get beyond a certain size, and they think, gee, we're getting a bit big, in order to maintain cell homeostasis, we better start thinking dividing and getting smaller again. The division is important, because without that division, you can't have the differentiation and the specialization. Since when cells become separate, they become quite autonomous, although still dependent on certain things like a supply of oxygen, let's say, or a supply of food. If you look at that cell there, we're fantastic. I love it. And I think now one of those two cells is going to divide up at the top left-hand corner. Yeah, there it goes. So you see the chromosomes lining up and then boom, pulled apart. Very beautiful. It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it really, whether you understand what's going on or whether you don't, it's very beautiful. It's really very beautiful. When the cells divide into two, that division, which is really fast, speeded up like that, you can just about see the motion of the cleavage furrow with the naked eye. It sort of moves just fast enough. But I think that's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Recipes for successful coexistence. Difficult.
On New Year's Eve, all of us went together to an open concert of Gilad.
The way I look at the conflict, one thing we have achieved within the last 50 years, which is we kept our nationality as Palestinians, because when the state of Israel started, the battle it was, we want to banish anything called Palestinian in terms of culture, identity, characteristics, blah, blah, blah. And the only thing we achieved as Palestinians, that we managed, even the Israelis today, they say Palestinians. 10 years ago, they used to say Arabim. So that's like, to me, it's a big victory.
And don't you think that the conflict is probably gonna keep on going when our kids will be? I feel that it got to the point where everybody understands what is going on, or about to understand.
A young Palestinian refugee from Gaza and two small Israeli children in a public place. In our special Israeli mathematics, the result of this equation would be suicide bombing and death, lots of blood, and the sharpening of knives for retaliation. But lo and behold, that's not what happens. I know this miracle can nowadays happen only outside Israel and Palestine, only in the Galoot. But it gives a direction for the need of a different mathematics. It is hard to believe, but not a long time ago, Khaled and us were so suspicious of one another. The passion for peace and calm is on both sides. Therefore, the connection I feel with Khaled is unlike any possible connection with any Englishman I meet here in London. I want to shout, "Hey, look, this is possible. We are of the same family, the same blood, cousins. We love the same land, we eat the same food, we have the same forefathers, we all carry our tragedies." A terrible thought won't leave my mind. If we are not clever enough, these two lovely ones may find themselves one day standing at opposite ends of a gun.